So we're about 3 weeks from the AP Lang and Comp exam, which is on May 20th, it's Wednesday. It's at 11 a.m., so you have plenty of time to wake up and prep for everything here. But before the actual exam, you might not be certain or aware of how College Board wants us to do the exams this year when it comes to online methodology or submissions. So with this short video here, I'm going to take College Board's extensive PowerPoint and hopefully boil it down to the most essential, about 10 or so slides, to cover most of the essentials that you should know before doing the exam itself. So the very first thing to consider is just there are 5 general steps that College Board suggests you do before you actually have the ready environment or conditions for the exam itself. Their 5 steps are: number one is reviewing your contact information. So in this case, just making sure you can receive the emails from College Board, because that's how your exam is going to be given to you via email through a ticket that they call. Number two, just making sure your tech is, for the most part, accessible. It doesn't have any faults to it. Maybe prepping a second device, if anything else, just in case things go wrong on the day of. But even if it does, don't worry. College Board still has options for you to pursue. Number three, practice submitting your response. So there's actually going to be a online simulation for you to try and experiment, just to kind of like get a feel for all the procedures, so that when you're submitting your exam on the day of the AP exam, you're not tripping out and just having worries as to what's the right procedures, are you missing anything, and so forth. Number four, gather what you need for each exam. So in this case, different exams have different requirements. When it comes to history and English, it's pretty similar in terms of what the materials allotted are and so forth. But if you're taking something like, from my recollection, it was like music theory or something like that, where it requires additional resources or just items on the side there. So there is going to be a list provided for whatever subject test you're taking. And then lastly, receive your exam confirmation e-ticket emails. So in this case, 2 days before the actual exam itself, you will receive your exam ticket. So it won't really work until the actual exam day, but the fact that you have it 2 days prior is just to make sure that you are enrolled and everything else, and nothing can go wrong. And if you don't get it, then that's the time to actually email College Board for the link and so forth. Now, it's same old, same old. Some people are thinking like, wait, the test is really condensed. Is it going to be harder? No. So College Board has reassured that on the first bullet point, it won't be more difficult to earn a 3, 4, 5 this year. So in this case, really it's just less points to kind of contribute to that pool. I mean, really, for AP Lang, it's at least you don't really have to worry about this system because we don't have MCQ, whatever. It's just one essay, right? So just kind of like do your best. If anything, think of the SAT essay. It's a singular essay. You just put everything into the rubric and so forth. So you're making sure that you have the clearest writing in regards to what they're asking from you. Now, the AP exams are never graded on a curve, so in this case, no different. You're not competing against students. It's just how well you do personally, right? If you meet the criteria, then you're good. And then lastly, don't worry if you don't complete all parts of the question. This is more for other exams, so for AP Lang, you don't need to worry about. But otherwise, if you're taking a multi-stepped exam, I think again for like art or music or whatever, you just want to make sure that all your parts are completed. But if you couldn't get through everything, you still submit what you have. Now, there are 3 different methods that you can submit your exams this year, and they're all, again, digital, of course, right? But there's actually an option for you to handwrite and take a picture of if you choose to do so. As you see on the bottom, music theory and world language have different requirements, so if you need to peruse that, go ahead and do so. But the 3 methods really are just copy and paste, attaching an actual document, and then later sending in pictures for your essay itself. So they give you more specifics regarding this here. I'll go through some of the criteria and just making sure that you know what to do. So the very first option, you can just copy and paste a type response, right? You type it in somewhere else, a Google Doc, a Microsoft Word document, whatever. You make sure that your AP ID and initials are on the top of the response, very much like how you would do for the regular AP, where you put like 1A, 1B, and so forth. The difference is that you're putting your AP ID just to make sure that it's all like uniform and specific to you. When there's 5 minutes remaining for the timer, and this is for everybody, right? 5 minutes left, basically it's submission time. I guess you could still kind of try to cram in what you need to, but it's 5 minutes. If you don't put it in by then your test is actually invalidated. So in this case, they suggest that you have 2 windows open, one for your submission section and the other one for wherever you're typing your documents and so forth. In that window, there's going to be the test question or questions, but for AP Lang, again, just one question, one prompt, right? It's going to have the timer and then later a place to paste and submit your response. Now, if you don't want to do that and you want to attach a document instead, it's pretty much the same thing. There's going to be an option also for you to just basically put in a docx, PDF, whatever file, and then later the same criteria need to be met though, your AP ID and initials on top. 5 minutes, send it in, boom. The only different one compared to the other two is the attached photo and handwritten response. So in this one, you want to make sure you're writing with a very clear and dark pen because it's not legible, it's not going to be counted, right? They're going to try their best to infer, but otherwise, you want to make sure it's legible altogether. They state 1 page per photo and a maximum of 5 photos. So this one's tricky because it actually has a limit to it. I'm not sure about the other ones where it's typed, but for this one, if you have 5 photos, boom, that's your limit. You can't put any more. So in this case, 5 college ruled papers, take pictures of them, submit them all, and then you're good. So in this case, there's also going to be a category, I assume, for that particular method there. Now, if you mess up on the exam day, you came in late or something happened, your browser crashed, whatever, they will allow you to do a makeup in June. So in this case, you can either request a makeup, you want to do it within 48 hours. If you don't feel like your test was fair or whatever, if you simply didn't take the test on May, you actually automatically get a makeup for June because they just assume that you missed a date or whatever. So in this case, you do have 2 opportunities to do the exam. Advice about additional resources. So in this case here, or optional rather. But anyways, you can actually use materials on the side to help with your writing, with your exam in general, just notes and study guides, right? So anything that we've done through that entire year, anything regarding how to do rhetorical essays, just kind of like the general skeletons and outlines and all that, you can actually have on the side just for your using pleasure, right? And it might slow you down if you aren't really familiar with it, so it's good to have that practice and that tool in mind. But otherwise, yeah, it's really making use of anything that you want that you think will help you with rhetorical analysis in this case to in 45 minutes approach the prompt and accurately document everything else here. I guess you could do internet searches. They don't really say you can't, but in this case, the more you spend searching stuff up, it will lag you. In the same time, you want to make sure that you keep this in mind, where whatever information you bring in that doesn't really pertain to the document, right, or the prompt. So rhetorical analysis, it's literally the piece in front of you. Like any outside knowledge, prior knowledge is nice, but that won't help your score. So don't think that you're going to find some answer online to like magically boost your score up. So in this case, that actually might lead you to actually some negatives in terms of plagiarizing. So that could be a detriment and a canceling of your score. Exam day itself, all you need to worry about is just general schedule, right? So if you have a calendar or something like that, just kind of keep this in mind. The next hour and 20 minutes is dedicated for the AP exam for that exam itself. So for English and history exams, 30 minutes before the time, you want to make sure your ticket is accessible, you want to make sure your information is accurate, and you're just going to wait for the exam to begin. So in this case, I wouldn't say like start 30 minutes before, just sit there, doing nothing, but you do want to go and make sure everything is ready early so that if there is an issue, you can kind of think about if you need to opt out or whatever, right? Exams 45 minutes, you have your question in front of you, you have your options to submit, and then 5 minutes at the very end, you have your submission time. That's it. That's an hour and 20, and then once you're done, you are done for the exam in the year for the subject of whatever class it is. Now, you want to make sure that when you check in, you have your AP ID and so forth. So actually AP or College Board is going to suggest you have a couple of materials on your site. One of them is going to be your AP ID because you're going to put it on your paper, you're going to put it into the ticket and so forth for the exam to start. And the format looks something like this, where after you put it in, it's going to tell you the time of starting, the screen will change, and then the prompt will be displayed in front of you. Submitting looks like this, where it's going to have different sections for you to submit your items. So there's going to one for text files, one for attached photos, one for pasted response. So you'll see them right in front of you. They should all be under the prompts. So there's going to be a pretty clear step-by-step instruction for you to follow in general. If you are still very, very much a worrywart and you want to know what to put into the day itself, like what materials to have and everything, they give you a checklist of all the items that you should have and all the things you want to be, make sure that you have ready before the exam itself. And if you're super high anxiety, there's even a link that they give you to kind of fill out every single item and preparation you need before the AP exam starts. But I guess in short, if you want a big summary of everything else here, make sure you have your API ID, make sure you're checking your emails 2 days before the exam, make sure you try the simulation maybe before the exam even starts in early May, I think it's May 4th, to kind of see how everything is formatted, and then later just prepare a week and a half beforehand, and then you're good for the AP exam. So, it is that kind of culmination of the entire year, but don't stress. You prepare this entire year. Most of you are actually very good at rhetorical analysis, so don't doubt your abilities. Just review a little bit, and then you're good for the year.